100. There we go. 172, 175. All right. Well, welcome to the trenches. It has been a wild 24 hours. I'm a general partner at Six Man Ventures, and we have just an unbelievable lineup of community builders and doers in the Solana ecosystem, and a really exciting agenda. And I'm going to go through and let everyone introduce themselves. Again, this is like a stellar group, but I just want to say a couple words first on what this is and why we're here. So, in my view, the trenches have always been for everyone. But I think there was a period where the trenches became purely just about trading and sniping and the coins. And believe me, I love the coins just as much as everyone. But ultimately, the reason we're all here is not just for the coins, it's for the financial system, the social system, the physical infrastructure system that we're rebuilding. And so this channel and this pod is about bringing together the best people that I get access to as an investor to you directly, so we can have conversations, we can ask questions. The last thing I'll say here is I do a lot of podcasts. I'm sure everyone on this call right now does a lot of podcasts. I know Todd does. John, I don't know how many podcasts you do. I know Cindy definitely does. Matt does. And so the thing is, sometimes to me, podcasts can get a little stale. It's like you're talking to a group. It goes live in a couple of days. There's no interaction with the audience. The whole point here is, how do we actually bring the audience in? How do I let people ask questions directly on the chat so we can have a great conversation and ultimately learn together and grow in the trenches? So the whole point of this, again, I fair launched this thing. I haven't sold a single dime. The purpose of this is not to make money. For me, the purpose is to give back to the community. So the more this channel grows, and if people like it, we'll just give out tokens to people. That's my goal. But anyways, we have a terrific group up here. So what I want to do is just have everyone just introduce themselves real quick, and maybe a very, very brief story on why you first got interested in Solana and what your red pill moment was. And I'm going to go in order of my screen. And so I'm going to start with John.
Hey everyone, my name is John. I run the engineering team here at the Solana Foundation. Been in the Solana ecosystem for coming on 4 years, maybe 3.5. And it's been a wild ride. Seen a lot of lows, seen a lot of highs. And just recently, last week, we ran the Accelerate conference. So that's mostly on my mind. What kind of got me interested twofold. One is obviously, like, I think it was an intellectually interesting area to be in. My first sort of crypto experience was betting on sports with Bitcoin. And so I always had it in my mind. Turns out that it was also the best place to work with my friends. So folks like Raj, Nikhil at Solana Labs at the time, and then Ori from Orca, Brandon from Phantom, all these people that I'd known in a past life, all building here in Solana. So that got me started, and then now here I am.
Amazing. And we have a lot to talk about. Literally the first ever Solana conference in the United States was in New York this past week. And we have some questions we're going to jump into as soon as we're done with intros. All right, Ian, over to you. Ian, you're the person I know least here. I just met you at the Accelerate conference, but you were just like Giga Chad. And I was like, I need to get to know this guy because I really don't know him well. And if we start going anywhere near technical things, like I need somebody here that's going to help explain that to the people in simple terms.
Yeah. Hope I can be that guy today. Appreciate you inviting me on. So I guess like kind of quick background on myself. So I'm a co-founder of a company called Kairos Research. We do DeFi research. We also run a couple of validators on some various networks. But most recently, we're getting quite into like high performance chains, and so Solana is obviously the place to be. And yeah, glad that we could connect last week at Accelerate. It was awesome.
Cool. All right. And then we're going to talk a lot more about Alpenglow, probably the biggest change to Solana in the past year, if not longer, not ever. I mean, absolutely massive upgrade. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. And then over to Cindy. Cindy rarely needs an introduction. If you don't know Cindy and you don't know Drift in the Solana ecosystem, you must have been living under a rock. It's by far one of the largest, most successful Solana DeFi projects. So Cindy, over to you. What got you to Solana?
GM, thank you for having me. This is one of the most degen things I've ever done. But yeah, I got into the Solana ecosystem back in 2021. Prior to that, I ran a hedge fund, and one of the best trades that we did was longing Solana at $5-10. And at that point, I was like, I met with Toli and some of the early BD people at Solana, and they were like, "You guys are traders on perps. We don't have perps on Solana, and that's a problem." And so I was very convinced by their vision, also very convinced by the fact that, Totally, and literally every single person on the Solana BD team jumped on the call with us at the time. And I was like, this is an ecosystem that I want to bet on. And so after that, we thought about how we could build an on-chain perpetuals exchange and launched a V1 back in November 2021 in the first breakpoint. So have been in the Solana ecosystem for pretty much since the start, and have seen it from the first hackathon all the way to now. And today, we just launched an institutional product last week, where we're enabling multiple different types of collateral, like private credit. We just announced a partnership with Apollo and Securitize, where you can now use private credit as collateral on
I've
our
heard of those
platform.
companies. They're kind of maybe small companies. Maybe it's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, something in the tune of 750 billion, but yeah, they're on Solana, and they're all coming to DeFi. So happy to jump into that more today.
Terrific. And then lastly, we have Matt. Matt is also somebody I haven't gotten to know super well over the years, but we got connected, call it in the past month, when we were on a panel together. And Matthew leads Solana research at Masari, one of the leading sort of research firms in crypto. So absolutely something that we wanted to be able to bring on.
Yeah, happy to be here. Yeah, gotten back in crypto in Solana in 2021. First thing I ever did on chain was participate in a fair launch process NFT mint back in I think October. Yeah, and then
did you get rugged or did you make money on it?
I didn't get it. It was a Dutch auction. It was just like a
okay.
Skyline Twitter thing, and I didn't get it, but I got a consolation prize and used it as my Twitter on my pseudo anonymous Twitter back then. But that was fun getting on chain using Phantom for the first time, but then joined Masari full time in June, and then took over the Solana report in Q3 of last year, and then been covering them since well. And I've been on panels with you and John, so got 2 of the 5 here, and we'll have to get Cindy and Drift on a panel at some point. But happy to be here, talk everything Solana.
Let's go. All right, and it looks like Todd somehow got kicked off. We're going to bring him back on. Let's see if this works. I see the whiskey bottle coming back. Let's see when we get Todd, and then we're going to jump right into Accelerate. Here we go. What's up, Todd? Todd is also a longtime friend in the space. I've known Todd for, 3 years. We've had incredible trips together, including going to the Kentucky Derby and drinking some of the best whiskey I've ever had. This one is for you, Todd, in honor of what we're going to be talking about. The last thing I'll say before Todd goes is, again, if this is for the builders and founders of Solana, we need to be doing demos. I think too often podcasts are all cerebral and research driven. And believe me, I love the research, but we got to showcase what amazing doers in Solana and other ecosystems are building. And so I am incredibly happy to have Todd as the first doer here that's going to be demoing Baxis and the amazing stuff that they're building over there. Sorry, real quick intro, Todd. More specifically, what you're building and then what got you into Solana. And we're going to do the Baxis demo towards the end.
Sweet. Yeah. Thanks so much. Building Baxis, which is an on-chain whiskey, wine, spirits trading and collecting platform. Excited to do the demo at the end for everyone, and I hope you have something to drink. And what got me onto Solana was, I was a whiskey trader before this, like a professional whiskey trader. And so we knew that in order to create the liquidity, like in order to create access, we wanted to put this on chain. And I did a handful of NFT trades on OpenSea on Ethereum back in 2021. And I turned to my co-founder, Carrie, and I said, if this is what blockchain is, then we can't build on this because I can't spend $200 in gas fees to try and buy a $50 bottle. And Carrie did a bunch of research and she's like, great, there's another blockchain called Solana. And, this is how they do, well, their consensus algorithm is changing, but at the time, proof of history, and they have an entirely different model of how they actually settle transactions and a much, lower gas fees, cheaper transactions, faster transactions. And that got us excited. So that's, we got Solana pilled by Ethereum.
The future of whiskey is on chain. All right. Well, if we're going to be talking about Solana, I got to make sure I got the right set of materials on. I think this is by far the coolest swag I have ever received from a conference. Red, white, and blue in Solana, New York City. All right. So where I'm going to start with this. So by the way, everyone here was at the conference, I'm pretty sure. So this is this is an open discussion. This is not me just talking to John. This is all of us together. So I want to hear what everyone else thinks about the conference and like where you saw the excitement and the opportunity. But let's, I have to start with John first. So John, you're an engineer. And like literally, you're probably one of the most engineers in the Solana ecosystem. I don't think people realize. I don't realize this. People realize this, but like he runs ecosystem engineering for Solana. So every time one of these large companies wants to integrate with Solana, most likely him or his team is helping make that happen and make Solana and the ecosystem wildly successful. So I was shocked to hear that somebody with your workload and your skill set is like, oh, I'm just going to organize literally the first ever Solana conference. So why did you do this?
It's a great question. I was voluntold to do this, but I think in part I have a fantastic team that was able to take on a lot of the technical workload, and I think that was the first part of it. The second part of it was we had to capture a couple things. One is we wanted to capture a lot of the new, renewed energy around crypto in the United States, and largely speaking, that meant New York, DC, SF, all of which are places that I've lived and worked in all of these places. So kind of get a sense of what the vibes are in each of these cities is like, and sort of the industries as well. You combine that with the fact that my team does support, basically every growth vertical at the Solana Foundation. And that means that, I can understand the politics, but also like the sort of strategic way to make sure that we get the best out of people, whether it's Cindy, and Securitize and Apollo on stage, whether it's, T on stage drinking whiskey around a barrel. Like these are things that I've been able to crisscross across both of these, all of these verticals. And it's in New York City, right? So live here, work here, have the office here, and for me, I'm a host. I want everyone to have the best possible experience, and so I could have sat on the sidelines and been like, hey, like critique and be like, oh, you should do this, you should do that, or I could jump in and organize my first full scale conference and see what I learned in the process.
That is incredible, and I'll tell you what, everyone I talked to said this was an unbelievable conference. From the quality of speakers, I mean, you had Kathy Wood, like one of the most legendary investors, just casually on stage at a Solana conference next to a bunch of crypto apps that have booths and are talking about what they're building. How, I guess, like, what are the stats? Like, who were some of the big names you brought in? What were some of the stats behind this? Just get us like in the room a little bit more. What was the thesis? How to work?
Yeah, I mean, so objectively speaking, 200 speakers, 120 talks, 2 days, 2 stages for just the second conference, right? There was still the first conference, Scale or Die, focused on engineers, which I did not help with, but was also awesome. I think our viewpoint was a couple fold. One is that it's not Breakpoint. If it was going to be Breakpoint, we would have called it Breakpoint USA. Breakpoint is the World's Expo Solana, right? That'll be the place that we see everyone in December, and that's really all about Solana. What we wanted to take an opportunity to do is like, how do you set the stage for the next wave of builders here in the United States, where you have a lot of folks that are already here, so you have the veterans, right? But you also have people that are Web 2 who are dabbling, who've never experienced what Solana is, and they're showing up and seeing Solana for the very first time, right? Because they haven't made it out to Lisbon or Amsterdam or Singapore.
Mm-hmm.
So we wanted to capture a set of speakers that was bigger than Solana. It's bigger than Solana, it's bigger than crypto even, right? And certainly at the outset, when we started planning this in January, we had quite high hopes in terms of the kinds of folks that would be able to track. Now, logistically, it was the week before Memorial Day. A lot of people don't know what their angle is on Solana, like blah 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 blah. So we definitely had like a hard hitting like 20 or 30 people, and we maybe got 5 of them. But that's okay. That's pretty good numbers considering these are some of the most prolific folks in the space. And what we found that I thought that was really cool is that a lot of people were extremely excited. They're like, I've never been to a Solana event before. I've never seen and felt the ecosystem. I just know the asset, or I just know X, right?
Yeah,
And I
because
think
if you're
like,
Solana curious, you're like, I'm not going to fly to Abu Dhabi or Singapore, but I'll certainly head to New York City, right? Like you're able to get so many
yeah,
different people that I'm sure it was their first conference.
yeah. I mean, even the senators, like the senators, local representatives, CFTC, these are folks that you could never get at Breakpoint.
Yeah.
And making it an accidental like subway trip or an Uber ride for, to hang out for 3 hours and see something, that's where we grow the pot, right? That's where we get a new set of folks to understand there's something of substance here and that people should join us and build in Web3.
Amazing. Real quick, what was, I guess, one of your biggest takeaways in hearing the content, hearing the speakers, and then I want to open it up. Like everyone was there. What did you think? What was the takeaways? So, like not in the production quality. We all know that was amazing. I mean, the way you redid the pier was incredible. But like from the type of content, the type of builders, like what did you see? What insights do you have? Let's start with John and then open it up.
Well, my intent, and we'll see how much this got read into, is I didn't want us to talk about infrastructure. I didn't want us to talk about scaling the network. I didn't want us to talk about the things that don't matter to products and businesses. I wanted people to recognize that crypto is here to make an impact today, and we need to talk about how to make that a reality. So I think like if you watch just day one West Coast, is just fantastic. Like banger after banger after banger. All of this around again, different perspectives on building great products and solving real problems. And it's like that for every stage and every section. So I felt great about those kinds of takeaways, and there was a lot less of the sort of infra scaling things, which showed up at Scalar Die for sure, but that's by intention, by design, right? And anyway, that was my primary takeaway.
Who wants to unmute?
I can jump in. Something I noticed kind of kicking off a couple weeks ago with like the super state soul strategies coming on chain, the real world assets, and then continued strong with Drift DeFi Day with Cindy hosting everyone. That was a really cool venue up in the greenhouse and talk about the Drift institutional product, and then just continuing with R3. That announcement, the Kraken stuff, and it was right up my alley. Be researching real world assets on Flash. I thought that was a big thing from the week, was just all the real world asset launches, which I think is going to be really exciting and kicking off the internet capital market theme for this year, which I think is going to be huge on Solana in 2025.
All of that was like day one East Coast too. Like it was just that giant section on RWAs.
Stacked.
It finally felt like Solana was growing up. Like we went from none of these institutions taking us seriously to all of them showing up and showing up in force. It wasn't just one institution. It was Fidelity, Apollo, BlackRock, JP Morgan. Everyone was there. And I think listening to the panels after the talk too, the way that they talked about Solana, the way they talked about crypto was no longer something on the fringe. And I think that was the most bullish thing we could have seen out of that
And
conference.
legacy Ethereum players, Chainlink, Centrifuge. I know they're different, but then those chain, and MetaMask. Big announcements from the week.
Yeah, MetaMask coming out.
I think one thing that I was looking at backstage, because this is the one thing that no one else got to see, was all of these folks. Obviously, they agreed to be there, but I don't think they knew what they were getting themselves into. Much like us showing up on this Pump.fun live stream, I think part of it is that all the serendipitous collisions. So both East Coast and West Coast stages routed through the same back area. So everyone would hit each other and talk to each other, and there's this serendipity back there where you see people exchanging information, like contact information and insights, and meeting each other for the first time. And I think for me, speaker experience is paramount. I want these people to want to come back and join us and really dig in and be curious. So I think that is what we're seeing on stage too.
Yeah, I guess also like to kind of contrast it with like Ethereum events. It was really refreshing to see a very commercially oriented conference. The Ethereum conferences is kind of where I spend a lot of my time, I'd say, in the last like couple of years. But a lot of those could just kind of revolve around circular conversations, ideological focused conversations, and to some of the points brought up in terms of like bringing new folks into the industry, like announcing real products and stuff like that. I thought that was really refreshing as well.
Why do you spend so much time at ETH conferences?
They're just the place to be, man.
Who invited this guy on
so,
stream? Should I just like kick
those
off
are
right
so
now?
they're
The
so
Ethereum
fragmented as
conversation?
well.
Man,
I don't know. Now, I mean, I was at Accelerate, just questioning all my time I spent at the multiple sub events going on over there. But yeah, I mean, it made me super excited for Breakpoint as well. But yeah, overall great production.
No, it's great. Conversions take place one at a time, and right now you're witnessing one in real life. I agree with the points around RWAs. I think one of the things that surprised me about Solana is you have literally some of the most cracked developers and distributed systems. I mean, even including Kevin Bowers, who's like a principal staff engineer from like the original Bell Labs days, which was like probably the best technological innovation we've had in the US this century. And like you have these types of people and who's rewriting the Solana consensus protocol, and then like new validator clients, and you have these incredibly serious people that are attracted to Solana because it's so performance based and not afraid to take risks. And then you just have like meme coin traders. And I think what we've seen in recently is there's this middle section that's coming together, and it's the institutions, it's the BlackRocks, it's the Fidelities, it's also the real world asset. So it's how do we tokenize things and put them on chain? And that's always been in the meta, but having them all together at the conference itself was like a very clear signal that Solana is a serious place to do business. I think before it was the FUD around Solana's outages, it was FUD around Solana's centralization. I think very clearly what we've seen is Solana is the real deal. And in fact, for many reasons, it is becoming the preferred place to launch large-scale applications, large-scale financial products, and we just never saw that before. And I think getting this cross-section where you have, again, like executives at BlackRock hanging out with meme coin traders in the same venue, it just shows that Solana is for everyone, trenches are for everyone. Todd, anything from you?
Picking up.
No, I mean, we deal with a very, very different type of user in general. Obviously, we've got people from the trenches. We've got people who are doing meme coins. They, literally can swap meme coins for bottles and things that they can actually drink. But it's always very interesting to see kind of that differentiation between like the obviously it's different between just being in the trenches and being a full-on degen. But, seeing those people that are fully like really focused on like the complete engineering complexity of it, and then the people that are focused on like the consumer facing parts, and the consumer facing parts that are also not just, not just relevant necessarily to like crypto natives or crypto users, which I think is super cool to see. For the two people that joined me on stage at Accelerate, Dan and Chuck, like they're not crypto people at all. Like I don't know if either of them even owns any crypto. But for them, it was like really eye-opening because they, work in the whiskey industry, manage funds, run distilleries, and they now have an idea and get a better understanding of just how, like, they both messaged me when they first got to Accelerate, like they were shocked at just how many people there were. Like they go to conferences or events and how engaged everyone seemed to be, and it got them really excited. And I think it got them, going back to Kentucky, not just talking about great, everything that Baxis is doing, but it got them thinking about crypto as an entirely different type of industry, not whatever their perception is from what they see, they read on the news or whatever they see, and okay, wait, there's real people here. Like they got to meet real builders and real devs and people who came over to just talk to them about whiskey or other stuff, and it really, I think, helped expand it from the perception that I think too many people give of what's actually going on in crypto.
Yeah, having a whiskey entrepreneur hanging out with a senator, hanging out with a degen, I don't think you get that anywhere else. Real quick, there's two announcements we want to talk about from Accelerate before we move on. One of them's Alpenglow. We're going to go a little deeper there in a second. But the other one I saw was probably one of the largest announcements was Kraken offering international users tokenized equities. So Kraken users can now buy tokenized Tesla shares that trade 24/7. Did anybody else read this? Does anybody else think that's a big idea? I mean, to me, it's truly, and we're going to talk about internet capital markets, but to me, it is the epitome of that, is taking these real assets, tokenizing them, putting on chain. And for someone like Kraken to do it is unprecedented. Is anybody, John, did you help out the team? Are you involved in this? Like, just give us the high level on what this is and how it works.
I wear a lot of hats. This was one that I got a got a chance to help out with, because I think this has been an area where we have been internet capital markets doesn't cover just equities, like there's a bunch of other things, but I think that this is the primary one that we really wanted on chain for a long time. And I think it's something that's tangible. People have it. And I think it works better. This is very clearly a thing that works better on chain. And so we wanted to work with a team like Kraken, who's also trying to make a dent in their universe too. I think a few things, like obviously they have their own blockchain, and so there was, how do we get all of that onto Solana where the market is, right? And I'm hoping that with the introduction of the assets, that we show that there's absolutely demand for these kinds of assets, and I think that will unlock a whole bunch of cool new use cases where I can, collateralize my Tesla to get a bottle from Baxis, to collateralize to do something else, right? Like there's all these really cool things that come out of it. But yeah, definitely very exciting and fun one to see from behind the scenes for sure, and making sure that gets unlocked.
Yeah, I totally agree. And yeah, and I think in the future, hopefully these will be transferable. We're just in step one, which is I can buy it and I can hold it on Kraken, and we're going to get there. But the 24/7 aspect is also huge. The fact that these things trade, anywhere in the world, 24/7. We can now create new price oracles for these equities that most people couldn't access before. So anytime anyone in the world can see the real price of an asset of Tesla versus normally there's off-market trading that large funds can do, but it's not like generally accessible to most people. I just continue to see this being the democratization of finance and giving power to the people. And a lot of it's taking place on Solana.
Yeah, I agree. And I think though, like the thing that we have not discovered yet is the composability part, right? How does it feed into 15 different protocols? How do you get these new interesting financial instruments that come out of it? That's the part that's very tough to do in the Web 2 scene. And it sort of is, we see this with tokens already in Web 3 and on Solana. Well, will we see this for assets like this is the experiment that we're looking to learn more about.
Awesome. The second major announcement was, there's many, but like the second, I think, biggest one is Solana literally changing its consensus protocol. Now, again, we're not going to get too technical here, but if you're interested in Solana, if you're interested in trading, this matters to you. And it matters because, Solana is not afraid to take risks. I think you look at the strategy of Ethereum, and we're going to ossify the main protocol. We are going to make it static. We don't want change. Change is bad. And Solana's literally this new Alpenglow rewrite came from a critique from a professor at ETH Zurich. Ironically, ETH Zurich is an actual university not affiliated with Ethereum, but the irony is just incredible. But basically, he was like, hey, Solana has some vulnerabilities here. And then, Totally like, hey, we fixed those. But by the way, if you want to help us improve, we'd love that. And like incredible act of humility from Anatoly. And then, I don't know, probably a year later or some period of time, they show up literally helping as part of Onzo rewrite this consensus. And again, consensus is literally how blockchains make decisions. And so they said the most important part of a decentralized network, we're going to update it and make it 100x faster for finality. So maybe Ian or John or Matt, whoever wants to, just tell us like at a high level what happened, and then what does this mean for users? Like for anyone on this stream right now, what does this mean? How does this help them? Or for the builders in Solana, how does this help them?
Yeah, so I guess like kind of quick TLDR on what happened. They looked at the current consensus and just kind of ripped it all apart, and completely, like, they took all the things you actually didn't need. They took out proof of history, they took out turbine, tower, gossip, and then they really just kind of replaced it with two main things, with rotor, which essentially does block propagation, and voter, which is the voting part of it. So essentially what this is going to mean for users is, well, currently like 33% of all blocks are filled with vote transactions, because every single validator in the network has to vote on every single slot. Slots are taking place
and a
constantly.
slot is basically a block, right? Like for simple terms, a slot is a block.
We can think of it for that. For like, let's say from the people that are using the platform right now, you're competing with a bunch of other people doing things, and that block that you're trying to interact with is filled with not only vote transactions but people trying to do other things on the chain. But yeah, so this is going to essentially get rid of all of those transactions. It's going to take votes off chain. And so this is also great for validators as well, right? Because from the validator side, on average, you spend like 1 SOL per day just on voting costs. So this is going to help validator profitability. So hopefully we see a lot of these validators and pour those funds back into the ecosystem, get involved with DeFi, all these other sorts of things. But essentially, you're just going to be able to, increase throughput as well now, because you've got like, less compute that you're using for proof of history, which is a pretty kind of heavy consensus. So yeah, I mean, it's really awesome to see what they did, but yeah, I would love to hear kind of other people's thoughts on this.
Amazing. Yeah. What John or Matt, anyone else have any? That was really great. Anybody else have anything else?
For us at Drift and for DeFi as a whole, one of the things that we've been struggling with within Solana is just probabilistic confirmations and how block times still take time to finalize. With Alpenglow, that actually cuts the finality time to 150 milliseconds, which mirrors a lot of the centralized exchange finality times and will get us closer to that centralized exchange experience. And so on our side, we're very excited to see this, because I think while Solana user experience has grown tremendously in the last couple of years, the sex level performance is still not there. It's inching towards it, but Alpenglow will be a step function increase in getting there. So we are very excited to see that take place.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's something that makes it way easier for builders to use. I mean, because I imagine for you, you're trying to settle transactions, and until it has you have to sort of assume that it will settle, but you don't have those guarantees. And now with Alpenglow, it can make it much faster for the guarantees. So it's better for builders, it's better for users, it's better for the institutions that are coming. That's kind of my main takeaway here. And again, the biggest takeaway of all those is that what I'm hearing is like Solana's not afraid to take risks. Solana's going to keep pushing forward to build decentralized NASDAQ. And if that means ripping out and putting in a new consensus client, so be it.
Yeah, right? The thing that I would want to add into, like, yeah, definitely very pragmatic and practical about improving some of these technical components. I'd also take a look at some of the other talks that were happening during Scalar Dad. The other one was the multi-concurrent proposers. Fits well into this, and they sort of go hand in hand, and in part gets you to an efficient market, right? Like that's ultimately the biggest thing. And whenever you have a single leader, you have an entity that can set what those markets are. So you need to have multiple leaders to have efficient markets. And I think these all are, it's awesome to see all of it sort of coalescing at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would second both of those because, yeah, exactly. Kind of near the end of, or what the Alpenglow really allows is really that plug and play into the next big thing that you guys are doing over the Solana Foundation with the multiple concurrent leaders. And what I keep stressing to some of my colleagues here at Masari, who are big other PerpDex fans, I won't name them, but they keep saying you can't actually have like price discovery if you just have co-located nodes in one location on the globe. But the whole multiple concurrent leaders, I think, is really exciting, because instead of price discovery happening on Binance, it'll happen on a distributed chain like Solana, which is going to be huge in the future. And I can't wait for the team over at Onza in these gigabrains from ETH Zurich to cook it up and implement it.
The fact that it's ETH Zurich still blows my mind. Matt, what do you have on that blackboard or that whiteboard back there?
Yeah, this is from the enterprise team. I'm not sure, but I thought it looked like a cool background. Made me look smarter than I am.
Maybe there's some alpha there. I know I can't make it full screen, but maybe you on the chat can zoom in and see if there's any alpha there. There definitely could be. All right. Anything else? Is there any questions on Solana Accelerate? I realize in between actual questions, there's a bunch of shit posters about people borrowing leverage to buy this token, which you're silly. Anything else? Any other questions? If not, I can just leave it open and they'll come in. I know we have a moderator right now that's actually looking at stuff.
I think like one of the things around these big changes, whenever we talk about like really big numbers or really small numbers, perception can get really distorted. So like just to kind of put it into perspective, like current finality is like 12.8 seconds. What it's going to be at is 150 milliseconds. One blink on average is like 300 milliseconds. So you blink once, and Solana could have reached optimistic finality twice, which is just kind of crazy, especially when you start comparing this to like other chains in general. But yeah, I think that's really awesome, and I think we're also kind of yet to see what the Firedancer team is going to be able to do with kind of all this extra leeway, we can call it.
Got it. And so actually what question I had on Alpenglow, and then I'll switch my glasses and we'll go to internet capital markets, is I was reading this, actually, let me see if I can share my screen here. Share a window. I think this should work. So I was reading this awesome report from Helios on Alpenglow. And one of the things it talked about is MEV and how MEV can actually become more centralized or maybe more specifically, that's not centralized, but more focused on the larger MEV clients versus like long tail, let's say searchers that are aiming to arbitrage. Is this a concern or is this a nothing burger here? If we don't know, we don't know. But I want to ask the experts.
It's too late in the day for me to parse this. I'm gonna read this.
No, that's right. I just didn't know if that was part of the like conversations. Like, oh, how's this affecting MEV or the searcher community? All right.
Are they saying like shorter block times? Less,
yeah, it's like shorter block times, less opportunity for searchers to get their confirmations in or their transactions in. It could basically focus MEV to the to like a smaller set of those either located closer or getting some sort of stake weighted quality service benefit.
It's an interesting question. Yeah, I don't know either. I'll have to read into that a little bit further because I'm curious now.
All right. Well, maybe you could, no pressure. Maybe you can let us know. Again, because like what we want is like for Solana to be decentralized. I think one of the biggest criticisms of Solana is, hey, it's more centralized than it should be. Again, that's debatable. You can develop your own point of view on what that means. I would say it's very decentralized, but if MEV start to become centralized and a couple players can be able to capture millions of dollars a day, I think it's something that we need to talk about. And like if we're having hard conversations at crypto, like it's something that we should talk about as a group. All right. Moving on, I think it's important to talk about internet capital markets. I feel like Solana starts to get buzzwords at certain times where all of a sudden it's only possible on Solana. Chewing Glass was one of the OG original ones. And now it's internet capital markets. It's everywhere. So, by the way, my hot take is I hate the name. The reason is like, what do we think the capital markets are today? Like we're settling transactions at millisecond speeds using the internet. So the internet capital markets language doesn't really, to me, actually start to indicate the significance of what we're doing. But I want to give it up to maybe Cindy. Like we start with you. Like you're working in finance, you're working with the world's largest institutions. What is internet capital markets? And is it like, do you agree with the name? And like, what does it represent? And then we can expand from there. Everyone can jump in. Creator capital markets. I agree. Whoever posted that's what we're doing here.
Yeah, the message of internet capital markets, I think, has been really powerful as a unifying call for what Solana stands for in this day and age. The message in the past few years were mostly developer focused and builder focused. Today, we're expanding the foreground of Solana to general markets as a whole. And what it means by that is, how do you become a chain that default becomes the home for all assets, including both assets issued on-chain and assets issued off-chain? So what we've seen at Solana, I think, was a really powerful confluence of two things. One is obviously the Pump.fun world, where you have millions of meme coins being released into the wild, and there's a really high velocity of markets being created. And on the very far side of the coin is hyper institutionalized products that they don't move, but they are considered source of value because people want to hold treasuries. People want to hold private credit. And so you have this huge range of assets, and somewhere in the middle is, the new meta of on-chain IPOs. Can you become a place where Solana becomes cheaper and faster to launch your stock publicly than resorting to traditional IPOs? And I think internet capital markets is really powerful because now you suddenly have a very level playing field where meme coins and these institutional assets all exist on the same plane, all exist in the same financial infrastructure. And there's so much unlock that you can do with that. You can lever along something with meme coin, an institutional asset with meme coins as collateral. You can use wrapped Bitcoin and Solana, and all of that, shows to me that the vision for Solana is much larger than when it started, and somehow still very, very connected to the original vision of being the Nasdaq, the CME of crypto.
What is it going to take? So let me think about it this way. Like, let's throw out an example company, Helios, great company. I think everyone knows Mert in the space. They're doing, I'm not going to say how much revenue, but like a lot of revenue. And there's a lot of, a lot of companies out there that are, to your point about IPOing on chain, traditional equities businesses. I think the token is a totally new business model, and you guys have helped pioneer that and make that big on Solana. So there's like hey, we're going to launch a token, and internet capital markets is, instead of even needing to launch a traditional equity, I just launch a token and create new mechanisms to distribute value and decentralized governance. That's like one part. And then I think a lot of the ICP or ICM conversation now is, hey, like, what about like these traditional equities? How do we actually get real businesses that, instead of needing to sign up for NASDAQ or NYSE or any of these, like, we're just going to launch on chain, and it's going to be global liquidity day one. And in classic private markets, the phrase, the IPO window is closing, is basically saying, hey, less and less companies are going public. It's increasingly challenging, and that creates a lot of issues for the private investment community. And so the question is, how do we do this on Solana and give power to the people? What do you think is the type of company that's going to be one of the first ones to actually IPO on chain and do a legitimate IPO that's separate than just a traditional, I'm going to launch a token?
It could look like a Web2, largely Web2 company, perhaps using crypto in some way as rails, a Web2 payments company using stablecoins as a technology. It doesn't yet have the revenues of a Robinhood or a Coinbase, but it's large enough to want to go public versus being acquired. I think that those are really interesting sets of companies that could do very well on chain. This is a latent group of buyers who want exposure to high quality, cash flow positive businesses that don't want to stay private forever because they want to increase a holder base. They want to get all the benefits of being a public company without paying 50 to 100 million in IB costs and underwriting costs to go live. I think Galaxy went live on NASDAQ last week, and one of the big complaints that they were talking about was it literally cost them in the realm of 50 to 100 million in costs to go public. Wow. Now, there exists a wide range of businesses.
Can you say that again? How much? How much?
50 to 100 million in
That's
costs
insane.
to go public.
That's insane.
I think the other
so I think there's a huge wide. Yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think like plus one to everything that Cindy mentioned, I think the other thing to remember here is that going public is as much a legal definition as it is anything else. And so at some point, yes, I think technically Solana could be the book of record for any company, but it's about whether or not, governments recognize it. So I think the work that Project Open, Orca, Superstate, a handful of other folks contributing to figuring out what the actual laws and regulations are here, I think is pretty critical. I don't think crypto is an opportunity to subvert regulation. It is an opportunity to make it more streamlined and more frictionless. That's where you get those cost savings, right? So you need to have both. You need to have the dumb contracts and the smart contracts figure out how to play well with each other.
Yeah, I would totally agree with all of that. I definitely think it's important that there's some sort of market structure as well. Like, what if you quote unquote IPO on chain, like what rights do token holders actually have? Because that's even still like an issue we deal with today between like labs and foundation, which is kind of like what most protocols go through. So like that's kind of another thing just to be aware of, I guess. But it's like in general, it seems like all of finance is converging on chain. Everyone should have access to the same capital markets globally, and Solana on the engineering side is doing everything they can to make those markets be as efficient as possible when that reality is like fully converging.
Yeah, I'm kind of interested in the Texas Stock Exchange that's kind of getting developed and built right now, because they're talking about like the 24/7 Monday through Friday trading hours, which is going to be interesting. It's kind of like that fintech Web 2.5 approach that they're going to. So that's going to be interesting to see how they're dealing with like regulators. But then also when they look into that, they say, hey, we have 24/7, 365 instead of 24/7, 5 out of 7. And so that's something I'm looking to see how like the regulators and then also what companies go there, and do they also just say, hey, like what can we do with Superstate, the Solana Policy Institute, and other things that are like that step forward.
Question on this. So like traditional traders, they love trading 9:30 to 4:30, hedging their risk at the end of the day in many cases, or they have access to off market. Like 24/7 is hard. Like we're used to it. And so we are more sophisticated. Well, we're not more sophisticated than a hedge fund. I don't want to say that, but like we're used to making sure we know how to interact in 24/7 markets, setting limit orders, making sure we clean out and hedge positions at the end of the day if we're using leverage. Like we're used to this. Is this like good for the financial system to have 24/7 markets? Or is this actually like it's kind of like where when we talk about instant settlement, stable coins, there's actually a lot of people that say we actually like netting transactions. And so rather than instant settlement of equities, actually settling every 2 to 4 hours is a better approach. I don't know. Do we think 24/7 markets is there any downsides to that? Or is this generally just a good forward progression of our capital markets system globally?
I think right now Robinhood is 24/5, so you're kind of already seeing how that can play out. I do think that's like a important thing to take note of. Like I think people are gonna have to manage their risk differently. I also think if you're a protocol, for instance, and your business is happening on chain, I think it's a lot easier for people to actually kind of see how your business is functioning. Like for traditional companies, we don't really know what's going on for the most part, unless like something until like there's like the quarterly report and like the earnings call, and we kind of figure out everything there. But um, I think generally people are going to be willing to trade things at any hour, no matter what. Because like if news hits pre-market, you're going to want to price that in at that specific block, like when that happens, not when the market opens itself. For U.S. hours or European hours, whatever it may be. But in general, I think people will adapt, kind of like we always do.
Yep. This is probably the most respectful live stream I've ever been on. And I haven't done many, but like everyone's just like so respectful, so muted, no fighting. Everyone agrees. I just must be the world's greatest moderator. Sorry, Jason Calcanis. I am just taking over your throne as world's greatest moderator. The last thing I want to do is, again, this is a channel for builders. My world consists of helping make builders radically successful with the capital and coaching and connections that I have. And so this is for builders. And so we're going to have Todd do a demo of Baxis. I think it's an incredible platform. Full disclaimer, I'm an angel investor, but I've also used it. I've purchased whiskey on it. I've sent whiskey across the world on it. So we're going to let him cook. Although I will say, people are asking in the comments, Ian, are you going to cook? Because you've got like this kind of nice kitchen behind you. And everyone's like, are you going to do some cooking for us? So if you ever want to cook on the live stream, we can talk about Alpenglow, or we can talk about, Italian tomato sauce. So like whatever you want.
I think nice kitchen is a stretch. I mean, it's called the trenches for a reason, right?
Yeah, Solana's still below 200. We're still going to McDonald's. I actually had a team. I heard a team this week. Does anybody know who did this? Had an event at McDonald's in New York. Did anybody go?
That's amazing. It's a good idea.
It's a
Yeah,
good
New
idea.
York is kind of expensive.
It was like a pop-up meet and greet for like portfolio companies and whatever. I couldn't make it. I was too upset about the Knicks game, but yeah, I did know that it was happening. It was during game 1.
Does McDonald's have a like food truck? Like, can you get McDonald's food truck?
Well, I don't know that McDonald's has one, but I remember like years ago, Goblin Town, like NFTs, got like this crazy like burger food truck to come to their party that they did at like by Chelsea Market. Like it was not McDonald's, but it was that was like the highlight of, I think, what was like probably NFT NYC or something.
All right, John Wong, that's my only request is the next time we do Accelerate, if it's in the US, can we just get a McDonald's truck? You know, Kathy Wood's great, but can we get a McDonald's truck?
If it's in California, it's definitely going to be In-N-Out. So
I would
sorry.
be equally fine with In-N-Out. Okay.
All right.
I know Cindy's got to hop. We're gonna end this, by the way, in 6 minutes. I can go over. If people want the whiskey, I can go over. But we're gonna end this in 6 minutes. I want to make sure these amazing guests we have, who are again like incredible builders and founders and longtime Solana advocates, I want to make sure they have a chance to go back to whatever it is they need to do. Probably keep building. But Todd, why don't you take it over? See if you can present. We've never done this before, but let's see if you can present and tell us about Baxis. And like, more importantly, why should DRCGKU, the start of their Instagram, why should they use this? Why should people use this?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know necessarily. I'm seeing a lot of the people in particular in the chat. So I do want to be very, very clear that none of this is financial advice. And obviously, whiskey, while it is both, delicious and something that's a lot of fun, it, has historically been viewed, whiskey and wine and other types of things like that, as stores of value. There's a lot of different reasons for it: limited edition, deflationary, vintage, capturing basically time. So there's an entire massive, and whoever Aaron, great call. See, I love this. There's actually whiskey people on the chat. This is awesome. Yeah. So but it's also like a really interesting way to connect people. Like, I mean, you can connect in different ways. One of the things that really helped NFTs and crypto take over, there are whiskey airdrops. Yeah. You'll sign up on Baxis. You'll learn more about this. But we've done airdrops before.
I mean, these people are in the trenches. They're like, I understand you're selling me whiskey, but do I get an airdrop? And by the way, we are giving out a bottle, right? Are we still doing this, Todd?
Yeah, we're gonna give away a bottle.
All right. Once we do a demo, I think what I'll do is I'm just gonna guess a number between 1 and 100, and then whoever types in that number first in the channel will win. Sweet. I think that's what we're gonna do.
I think that's awesome.
Cool.
Yeah. So basically, I was a whiskey trader, and that meant like, I started off as a collector and an enthusiast, and like I learned about these markets. And so when you guys were discussing before internet capital markets, I mean, this is not to start conflict now after you commended everyone for being so polite, but this has always been one of my biggest complaints is that, I mean, when was the last time you touched a stock certificate or a bond? People just don't do that. Like, we trade these things digitally already, versus when you look at something like, let's say, a barrel of whiskey. So a barrel of whiskey has to live, by law, has to live in a bonded warehouse at a distillery for it to mature and age. And so you now have something that could be, 0 days old. It just rolled off the stills yesterday in Scotland, and it's going to age. It's going to become a 30-year-old whiskey, but that's going to have to be, that takes 30 years. There's no way to accelerate that, like to make a 30-year-old whiskey in anything less than 30 years. And so you now have this asset where effectively, at the minimum, what the value is today for a 30-year whiskey, exclude inflation and everything else. And so but you have no access to capital. So distilleries who are actually building businesses and need capital to continue to run themselves for those 30 years, like they now are able, because of access, like we actually help them tokenize their barrels. We work with loop scale, so people can actually borrow against their barrels. But the same goes for collectors and drinkers as well, who are actually like trying to do, doing the same thing for bottles, where like you've got people that have bottles and collections. I had one myself, and like, I don't always want to sell. So we've got one user, for example, who just dropped off a massive collection. He's selling his business to a private equity firm. He wanted some cash in the short term because he didn't want to obviously pull any cash out of the business. So he dropped off this incredible whiskey collection that he didn't want to have to go and sell either on our marketplace or whether it's on our marketplace or whether it's on like an auction or somewhere else. He wants to own this stuff, but he's now able to actually collateralize it and borrow against it, because it's like, as we were talking about, so there's buy this whiskey at 50 cents on the dollar. get 12% yield, 13% yield. Interesting, because you're taking kind of the best parts of DeFi about passionate collector markets, and you're really combining. When I started looking again at blockchain and I said, this is an incredible technology. Pixelated and lost way too much money into whiskey, but it was a really good. What we were capable of doing with the technology. There is absolutely a time and a place. Collectibles markets.
Wait. So can we go to demo? This
Yeah.
rich guy. There we go.
Here.
People want to see the bottles. Beautiful bottle. Big. Wait. Those are some of the best bottles I've ever seen. Todd, you have such nice bottles on your platform.
The cool part is that they're not all in my physical vaults where people send us their collection over here. But you can actually go in there, 360 scans. So these NFTs, like 160-degree scans of each individual image. So to the point where you can like zoom number on this one, the 1323J, and that matters for certain numbers. Actually, how you tell what year it is and what the release. Be able to again make this market more. Whiskey, we talk about the average whiskey collector, so not native to Phantom and all these different wallets. And so it was transactions, which again are putting volume through them. Spending SOL on the mint, we're spending SOL on all these users. And when I say real users, I don't mean that crypto. Grandfather could log in and that's always what we like to talk about. So people love this. On your account in the back, it spins up. So you go to your account profile, gives you a wallet. You go into your collection, you can see your dashboard. So the coolest thing now that we just haven't made any offers yet, but I can go in now. So here, I have this bottle, for example, $225, and I'm just going to accept this.
There you go.
I just did in there. I just literally.
And by the way, instant settlement. He doesn't have to wait, see and go through some,
exactly
in the account.
Historical, sales prices. So sure, I live $250, but for me, it's like that $200. It is to sit there and try and over the price, and I'm happy to get that $200 because for even less. And take that money now, and let me go and roll in. Let's just say this bottle. So I'm going to. You can see the highest offer on this bottle is one. To buy for $280. So what's super cool is that at buying, you can either ship your bottle. These NFTs are actually redeemable, or keep it there in the vault. So I secure. Most people don't is obviously that this is just pulling up. I could pay. You're referring someone or sending this to somebody's crypto savvy.
Exactly.
But $3 on the processing fee with a credit card. And I'm just going to pay with the wallet I've got. Over there. Yeah, actually, I'm going to pay with. So I'm going to connect my wallet. So I'm going to spend in order to.
The reason you can't see this is the way Chrome extends screen, but he's talking through it. Look, credit card information and buying the bottle.
So now if I go back, that bottle now, and that seller now has that cash in there. Thing is that we've created that instantaneous. Oh, I see. It opened up a new tab, so you guys didn't see that. You guys, I'm going to walk you through the whole process. Tab. So let me go. And I'm going to be See, when I used to buy and trade whiskey, like it would show up on my bottles just stay in the vault.
The wife. No, the wife doesn't need to know. She's amazing, but she doesn't have to know. It's not important.
So, yeah. So, and I didn't even realize I wasn't looking at the stream. I'm going to pay with crypto.
Oh, there we go. Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm connected already. I'm going to pay with Sol. Transaction, in my wallet. Again, this takes a couple of seconds. Bam. So over there, and that's it. And like I said, the ball is already in the account. And what's cool is that the owner gets for us again is that these sellers don't necessarily they're not necessarily for us and the meme traders and the crypto trying to buy low and sell high. I'm very good at doing the opposite.
Trading meme coins or trading whiskey?
Let me put it like this. You will lose
because it's a deflationary.
There's a floor value, like there's an actual utility. Every single bottle will get opened and considered together, or it's like a great price. Bottles that sell for $500,000-$600,000, even those bottles, like at a certain price, somebody this $500,000 whiskey. Now, to their benefit, like there's no ceiling. Rip and go all the way up and just continue. That in theory, their intrinsic value is zero. As soon as they lose, let's say, attention or out, or it turns out that the creator of the coin, we see this on all these coins. People, whiskey, you don't really have that again, because at a certain point, your whiskey for $3 and piss off. So you have, again, absolutely not tell you that you will make more money. But what's nice about that, you can actually pay for your whiskey with.
Wait, what?
Yeah, so we work with a lot of different projects. Like we've done it. We're working honestly with the group. We launched it on Bonk, like the Costco hot. So HelioPay can integrate those. We did it with. So HelioPay can integrate your AI, your means of payment. So again, the seller still in memes, and that's what's really cool is because you end up again, we'll make a whatever it is and not want to, don't want to into something. And what's really, really cool was huge for us because home and they're sitting there and like your dad and your uncle are, monkey pictures you've been playing with. You pull out your wallet and like you literally winkle that.
By the way, Todd, I don't want to interrupt. These questions, I'm getting blocked. Pump, what's going on? I'm getting blocked. I can't. I'm going to answer the questions. So continue. I just want to.
Questions like I'm happy to answer.
Yeah.
And people ended bottle.
So you could do it right now, like because you can, and we can literally. We've done this before. We do one thing that's really trenches first, but we actually secured a. So far, it's 10 barrels from one of March 16th. So these were barrels that were literally distilled like the first block. They are literally as old. And so each of those barrels has the age of or as many epochs as, because whiskey only is considered age. So if you guys are ready to do ready to make that happen.
Well, he's in the chat and I'm going maybe let's go in and talk Solana and talk I want to address the streamers again. My often these brainiacs talking, and it's not about what's the better Glasgow whiskey. Still, if you know, you know. Cal, have you a point of view?
So keep in mind, this is from some very good, very well established within the whiskey world that bomb bars in the world. Pot still, no pot still FUD. I use bells when they talk about it, and to be
this guy.
Great.
So whoever this viewer is, they just knew and you knew this. I'm telling you, financial invested. It was if anybody financial markets for whiskey, it's Todd. In fact, first time I met Todd, this is fun. This place called Empire Down, New York City, of crypto teams. It was literally the New York capital markets. To literally, Todd's office was next. Would come pitch us. They'd be like, "Somebody fucked it up," you know. And so, here's some whiskey. Let's talk about it. Some whiskey that was from. It was some insane, and it was whiskeys I've ever tasted, and it up. Where do we have
an AMS, an American Medicinal Spirits? Is just like
wait, we had it $1,200.
It was actually $1,800. This is so December 4th, and the day that they repealed literally like for prohibition, like these were distilled and bottled like during that. They literally say like for medicinal purposes, prescription to these were sold at drugstores. Like literally, this was so this, and it was distilled in 1917. Like all the like the type of stuff. So every year on the repeal of prohibition from my collection of pre-prohibition whiskey or pro. And what's so cool though is that like us as a retail store, it's collectors that actually can again bid, ask, you can send, and so we have stuff that comes in that I've. One second, there's one bottle that people
trust me, bro. Famous last.
We're complaining about like meme coin on a meme coin, like, and I make 30K. Like, this is a bottle of Madeira, 1770 vintage. Like it was produced for the Astor House.
I want to get that price tag. This channel has made 13K hours. I'm not gonna again. I don't need a profit from this. Maybe I don't know. Maybe we buy some rare whiskey.
I mean, again, this is like so. It's not whiskey, but like literally in 7 massacre and everything. Like this whiskey sold to Francis Amory of Boston. Voyage, like they have all of the documentation. And yeah, so I just like the history. Like I'm not open history, and like I want. Yeah, so if any of you guys have
there we go. All right, well, this final questions on whiskey. Any an hour and 15 minutes in this live stream, literally posting in questions. I mean, if you sold to go to Bon Accord, well, let's do that now.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna post a number and 100. Okay, it's in the chat. So whoever a free bottle of whatever Todd chooses. 1 in 100 inclusive. Run. Let the bots run. Is low. 55 is low. 30. I'm aiming for.
All right.
A couple people getting close.
They're getting close.
64 is.
Oh,
It's just J3. All right, we have somebody. This. Make sure I don't F it up. 3FG2 got it. First. So, what? Contact me on Twitter or on the trenches, and then we'll get you a bottle. Todd gets kicked off this stream.
Like the
No, but
the profiles.
it's okay. Let me see if I can get to speak. Todd, because they have white text. Todd is coming back.
is that something we can change for the next?
Hold on, literally, it's funny. I've got a chain, and they're great. They're like, I've been telling them all the bugs I see. This, they're like, here's these degenerates on the right. Don't feel the need to talk to the people, and I'm like, I'm people. That's what I'm about, right? I was telling them I was getting canceled. Message. I was trying to send a message and I couldn't. We're also going to make you guys bigger because right now, make you guys bigger. It's coming next week. Again, it's some alpha. Pump is in the future. I love these guys. Told them I need to move my head. There we go. So now Todd's in. Screenshot of the winner. So I'll find a way to make sure we.
You tell me the.
So okay, I think in this stream alone, because I was looking at my creator rewards, it was at 4K. So let's pay bottle for this guy. I think that's great. $150. Yeah, do you want to pull it up and
Let's buy it live.
That way we can actually, can we bring them on to talk? But if they disappear and go else, but like
sorry, I just opened up this one. Oh, this happens to be a really good price on the Glengoyne. This is a 700 ml, so slightly different. Is
Todd's going to be sweeping the floor after this.
I use the platform because otherwise, like every time I have even this, and I'm like, I could roll this into a bottle.
Some people are stacking sats.
Absolutely stacking bottles.
Typing for whatever reason. Again, I've told the J3F6 is DM, message during the live stream. Oh yeah, we probably gotta make sure they're 18 years old. I don't know. We do this the right way.
Well, so part of it is they actually can't redeem it if they're under. They can just flip it. It's like an NFT that they can just flip, but they can't redeem it unless they're of residence.
Got it. Okay. Request to come on live. All right. Fuck, I gotta move. I have like anything with a dark background. I literally
Let me know.
I'll figure something out. Just message me. We know who you are.
right.
Gotta buy.
All right, let's go through. Said, I'm just trying to think. So I guess, do they like whiskey, vodka?
Oh, they're buying whiskey. We're talking. This is literally my third or fourth whiskey. So I think I'm starting to get. So we're
All right. So then let's get them. Ooh. I know it's. I would say I know this bottle will typically, MS the 200s or so.
Oh, it's great. Let's find a great bottle.
Yeah, I'm saying like this is a great bottle. It's produced by Buffalo Trace, which again might mean nothing if you don't know whiskey, but it's basically the same grains and everything, like famous Pappy Van Winkle, etc. So, and like this is the same type of stuff that barrel as Weller. So it's the closest you'll get to kind of that flavor profile.
Cool, Todd. I will. We'll find a way to get to the stream. And if we're gonna stack it for the next one, if so, but in the stream, but I can't bring them up because it's all on a white background.
All right, so I will. Asking Carl about the impact of faster block times. Us from like our
because you're giving
like our retail consumers a Stripe checkout or things that are instantaneous. Really kind of throws them off.
I agree.
And so, and as close to a Web 2 experience for them is actually ridiculously important. And congrats to it's a really great bottle.
We'll make it happen. This is thanks to, again, it's all public. I'm not sharing anything private. Okay, in the past 24 hours. And 3 years, a little over 3 years. And I hopefully some pretty good threads, good comments. Here, we've made 13K. Talking about crypto. Talk about this is for the people. This is not there's an ecosystem. You've had your demo. Got to figure out who's next for a demo. It up because I realize people have to go. We're already over. You guys did as well on the stream. I mean, this is just anything else, man. Like, how can invested in what you're doing? Just lay on the alpha. Todd, thank you so much. By the way, this was great.
Everybody.
May the force be with you. Little Star Wars reference. But you can find me at masari.io for anybody to go read. I write the status on a report coming up, so that's going to be good. I have on them as well, and some of the other forward to write status Solana's. Keep covering Solana.
Terrific. But I literally can't. I'm still blocked. You know this isn't a about. All right, Ian, what do you got?
Yeah, so you can find us on Twitter _res RES. Follow us, stake with us. Appreciate it, and excited to kind of see really go into development.
And go live. Do we know? Is it live?
Ready by 2020. The rough estimate because
we still have to go through the 70. I guess there's a small chance it doesn't, but community, so we got to do the 70 process and then test net and all that.
be like, here's my really into like in pro, and it's like not really doing anything meaningful. It's pretty reasonable, given like you're really kind of census algorithm and completely replacing it.
All right, well, let's look forward. By the way, still can't type. Oh, I'm gonna being like I can't type. With Elon or Ansem, I know both. I don't know if it's going to hit 60 or 70. It seems like this thing is trading $3 million in Solana, and it's trading at $3 million. I know both of them.
Most technical pump stream ever.
I can get them both. We'll put in. We're good. So let's see if we can make it happen. This is great. I'm going to end the stream. Thank you so much. Next stream, maybe Friday. That are listening, either's going on market making. There's so many have inside market making. What happened with Movement Labs? There's many talk about this, and maybe we should talk about that next time. Next one. Cool. Thanks a lot, everyone. Have a good night.
Cheers.